Hey guys, I am back with another one. This is Eco Sundays episode 4, and today we answer the burning question: can bucket ponds build a clean ecosystem, a clean aquarium? Who knows? But we're going to find out. It's going to be a lot of fun. I can't wait to show you all the stuff that we have going on with this build. Please remember to like, subscribe, share, and comment. That stuff really helps me out, and I thank you in advance. So here we are. We have a 1 gallon jar, and this is a recycled pickle jar, and we're going to use this to build what I'm calling a snail reactor. This snail reactor is designed to consume organic material and produce bladder snails. I'll explain more as we go. So I'm starting this new reactor, this aquarium, with some seasoned marble and a scallop shell. These items will work together to maintain a decent pH for our bladder snails to enjoy, and they'll also act as a source of calcium in the aquarium. If the water gets too acidic, then a little bit of that seashell will dissolve and it will balance out. Very useful. You guys have seen me use a lot of seashells and marbles in my aquariums, and the results are interesting and functional. My guppy tank, for instance, consumes 1 scallop shell a month, maybe 2 months roughly. It's really cool to see the aquarium eating a seashell. So, in time, we will see that in the jars as well. It'll just take a lot longer. I'm filling this up with good, clean water, not from a fish tank or anything like that. And we're going to start this project off with some bladder snails. Yes, I'm going to do a in-snail cycle. Does anyone say that? I don't know. But that's what we're going to do. We're going to use a few of our bladder snails to start the cycle in this new aquarium. Specifically, I've taken a couple from the wild snail population that we recently captured, and I've taken a couple from the mutagen pond population, and some from my before mentioned guppy tank. The wild snail is content to hang out down here at the bottom, while the others are up top trying to breed already. So it's possible these wild snails might be a different species. They might not mix with our bladder snails. We'll have to wait and see. I will be building more jar aquariums with the wild population as we go in the future. But here we are. So I'm going to add a lid to this project, and my lids are seen in the background here. I'm using screen mesh and rubber bands. It's not perfect. It's actually very annoying to put the lid on the jar if you ever have to take it off. But, they're functional. It's not the worst lid. It's very cheap. But I have a better idea, and we're going to try that in this video. But for now, with our screen mesh lid, I am going to make a little slice right here. This mesh lid is meant to prevent insects from flying in there. But we can also add our plants and use the mesh as a mechanism to hold the plant in place. This is a single stem of alligator weed with a really cool little flower on top. And that flower should stay there pretty much forever, as long as I don't, break it off or anything. But I think we will end up trimming this plant, probably in the next few days. It looks cool though, and I'm excited to use it in our jar aquaria here. Um, Lately, people have been commenting on my videos like, oh, it's just a weed, why do you care? Look at this, you guys. Look at that root structure. Look at the way it already has set off such a beauty in our jar aquarium. I care about these plants because I think they're awesome. And just because you call it a weed, that doesn't make it worthless or not useful. A weed is just a good plant in a bad place. So fast forward to day 2. Not much has changed, of course. It's only been a day. But I do notice that our jar is looking pretty good. And I might have to pluck some of the leaves off of this alligator weed, as some of them are pretty rough, pretty beat up. But right now we're going to try a new lid design, you guys. That's right, we're using coconut. Yes, I have a half a coconut here. And I'm going to use this coconut as a very unconventional lid for our jar aquariums here. I've been searching for a better lid for a long time. I came up with these mesh screen rubber band deals here, but they're not ideal. This coconut already has holes in it, and it should allow us to run some plant stems through it, along with an aquarium airline, and I think it'll be perfect. That little half a coconut might even act as a bowl, kinda, sitting on top of the jar for plants to sit in and take root and stuff. I think it's really cool. But before we do that, we're going to add something from the wild snail population. I am going to take some of the leaves of this plant before they rot underwater here. The plant's still doing really well, but I know these leaves won't survive underwater. But if you watched that video, episode 3 of the Eco Sundays series, you would know that these plants are covered in snail eggs. So I'm going to throw some of those eggs in our new project, and we're going to add our lid here. So I've been looking for cheap lids. I've been trying to find something that works. A half a coconut is perfect. The coconut itself was about $2.50. So what, $1.25 for this lid? That's not that bad. And yes, it does look like it will work as a plant cup, a plant pot. But I think I'm going to run it like this. And we'll use those convenient eyes on the coconut, those little holes, to run our airline in here and our plant stems and stuff. I think it'll be perfect, you guys. And I can't believe I haven't thought of this before. Now, I did not boil the coconut. I didn't do that. I'm not worried about it. It might get wet. It might leach some tannins and stuff into the tank. It might even create some mold or fungus. We'll have to be careful. Here's our alligator weed, and I am going to have to cut it a little bit as some of those roots down there are just too thick to go into the coconut eye. You'll see what I mean. So I'm going to cut it right here. I'm going to leave a little bit of roots on there, and that should be enough for this plant to really take off. And we're just going to thread it in just like that. Right there, it's perfect. Yep. And some of these leaves are kind of bad, so I'm going to pull a couple of them off, most of them, in fact. It's fine, you guys. We'll have new growth sooner or later. Don't worry too much. I don't think many people work with alligator weed in aquariums, but I do. Yeah. So we're going to thread our aquarium airline right into the coconut. It's perfect. Yeah, we're just going to write that in there. And you will notice that I am running airlines on most of the jars on screen here. It's all just one Korean pump or Chinese pump, I'm not sure. But I have a bunch of splitters and stuff, and I'm running these air pumps nowadays because I need to stir the water. That's all it is. For the most part, our snails and our other pets, they don't mind stagnant water. They do pretty well, especially our ostracods and other things. But stirring the water really, really helps. It just keeps proteins like film from developing on the surface, and it makes the tanks look a bit nicer. You'll notice many of my jars are green, but not all of them. I'm not weak to the green water. I'm just willing to work with it. I'm happy to have it, really. Yeah, I'm a bit weird, I guess. But now I'm going to add a air stone to the end of this airline. And I did put some rubber bands on here just to hold the tubing in place outside of the jar. There we go. Nothing crazy or complicated. Air stone costs like $1. Some old aquarium airline tubing, and an air pump that I already had laying around. So far, this tank has only cost us $1.50, and I think that's pretty cool. Pretty low-tech build, pretty cheap. It kills me when I see people talking about a low-tech tank, and like, dude, you got some space age stuff going on. I'm back here in the Stone Age with an air pump. Um, let's take a moment to appreciate the stem that we cut off of our alligator weed plant. We'll look at that again a little bit later in the video. We are going to add some coconut here. Everyone told me this was a bad idea, that it would make a mess. The snails would not eat it, and it would break down and rot in the tank. There's also a good chance that it can act a bit like a micro buffet and trigger massive biofilm and bacterial growth, which that's what we want. I don't usually feed the tanks with coconut. I have never actually done it before, but I am adding some fish flakes as well, just to get them started with some kind of food as that coconut begins to rot and break down. So here we are on day 4. I feel like we've grown up a lot over the last few days, and we've really matured here. Bam, there we go. I got my gloves on, and now we're ready to play with our aquariums once again. So the tank looks pretty similar. It's pretty clean, but we're going to fix that. We're going to mess it up, you guys. I'm going to take some mulm from this old jar aquarium that you've never seen before, and I've been doing this a lot lately. I think that live mulm is actually very valuable and full of microbes and all sorts of little things that actually help your aquariums. So I've been injecting mulm into my clean tanks during the setup process, you know. And even a video like this, even though it takes like 2 weeks, I consider this all part of the build. You know, Rome wasn't built in a day. Here we have another crazy jar aquarium you've never seen before, and this one's full of paramecium. And I should mention the previous jar had some of my small white detritus worms in it. But this one is full of paramecium and protozoa and other little things. We're going to take a bunch of them. We're going to like abduct about 1,000 of them and inject them into our new project as well. And we'll also take some samples from these guys. Yes, this crazy looking red mass here. These are my tubifex worms, and they are an important part of my aquariums. Also, this jar is like packed full of Daphnia, like hundreds and hundreds and thousands of Daphnia. I don't know if you guys are struggling to raise Daphnia out there. It's actually very easy. Maybe I can help you. But we're going to kidnap all these Daphnia and that tubifex culture that was laying there, and we're going to inject them all into our snail reactor. And again, this is all part of the setup, you guys. We're building an ecosystem here. I'm not trying to just raise bladder snails in a jar. That's relatively easy. I'm trying to build a jar that can sustain bladder snails, that can cycle nutrients internally, so I don't have to, suck a bunch of stuff out of here. While I'm injecting all that stuff into the tank, let's take a moment to appreciate the Wedelia plant growing out of that Daphnia culture. Look at that. Isn't that amazing? That's, what, 2.5 feet tall? They can get even bigger. And, again, guys, a lot of people are like, oh, that's just a weed. Well, not to me, man. To me, that's a beautiful plant that loves my jars and loves the way I do things. And so I love it too. And I think that's how you should approach aquariums. Maybe you're not a Anubias sword guy or whatever. Maybe you're just a Java fern person or a Java moss. Maybe you just like duckweed. Don't let people tell you what to do. I'm going to add some pothos in here now because I like pothos. My wife recently bought me this plant here, and I've been taking cuttings from it for all of the aquariums off screen. And we're going to take a few today, and we'll just put one right into our snail reactor, right into that third pre-drilled hole in the coconut. Yeah. So if you're not familiar with coconuts, they actually have 3 eyes on them that you can knock out with like a screwdriver or something. And it makes it very easy to put some plants in your aquarium. Yeah. So I will be retrofitting most of the tanks over to the coconut lids. I think it's a better option. And we will be adding some food for the snail reactor now, especially after increasing the bioload with those new worms and stuff. We added tubifex, darrow worms, I should have mentioned, and we also added some of our small white detritus worms. All 3 of these species are very important to maintaining a clean ecosystem. So hey guys, it's day 7. We're a lot older now. Things have changed a great deal in our lives in the last 7 days. But we're back. We're back again. And now we have a lot of new friends. We have a bunch of hatchlings, you guys. That's right. Those wild snail eggs I just kind of tossed in here, they've hatched. And they are hungry. That's one reason I overfed the aquarium with 2 chunks of cucumber. It's because I want these guys to eat as much as they can. If they have all the food they could want, they will grow fast, they will lay eggs quickly, and their babies will repeat the process. So I am overfeeding the tank intentionally so that these little hatchlings and the adults will have more food than they could ever want. This will trigger population explosions, and that's what we want. Boom. Yes, many, many snails. But, you might say, oh, you can't overfeed a tank like this because everything will rot in here and get nasty. And that's not what we're worried about. That's why I have the worms. Those worms, along with the snails, are working to keep that rot controlled. A little bit of that cucumber tries to rot, a little bit of that coconut starts to break up and drift around, and our little microfauna will attack it. And they'll consume it before it can go toxic. Does that make sense? That's my goal, anyway, is for them to eat the bad stuff and turn it into useful nutrients for our plants and bacteria. On top of the jar here, our plants look pretty good. The pothos is a little beat up from, being stuck in here like that. I'm not a pothos expert, but the alligator weed is alive, and I'm not even sure if I should have the pothos stem down in the water like that. But now we're going to add another element in our food chain here. We're going to add a ton of bacteria. This is a pond pre-filter attached to my guppy tank. I have 2 of these in there on very large hang-on back filters. These pre-filters catch a ton of duckweed from the aquarium, as well as mulm and other stuff, bacteria, all sorts of things. It is part of my filtration. And I'm just going to give that a squeeze in here into our new snail reactor. It's going to look kind of weird, and it's going to add a bunch of stuff. I'm also going to dunk it in here a little bit. And there we go. Yeah. And we're just going to cut to day 9 and act like I didn't just add filter juice to the new build. Those pond pre-filters are really cool, though. It's a great way to prevent your snails from getting sucked into your hang-on back filters. But here we are. The reactor looks amazing. You can see that the cucumber is definitely looking pretty nasty. But I can tell you from a sniff test that the tank doesn't smell rotten. This stuff is being processed. Here are the roots on our alligator weed, and they are actually trapping mulm. They're catching this material like a net or like a filter. I think that's really cool. And this is the first element in my biofilter for this build. You'll see the second element here in a few days. Well, shortly in the video, but a few days on my end. But here we are. We also have a ton of new eggs in here. The snails are laying eggs, and these guys will be born in this jar. Something I did enjoy was just tossing those wild eggs in here and watching them hatch like that. If you're doing a bladder snail thing at home, why not start with an egg sac? I know it sounds weird, but when the snails are born in that jar, it's like they're already adapted to the conditions and ready to go. They usually do better. They have higher survivability. And I think it's just fun. I would love to just give someone an egg sac. Here you go. Have some bladder snail babies. Also, they're really cute when they're in the eggs. I can't help it. I love them. I'm going to add a microfauna pod real quick. This is a seed pod from a sweet gum tree. They grow about 20 feet from the oasis. I never knew it until recently. Now, I did not boil that sweet gum seed pod. I did not boil it. I'm lazy. I'm not going to do that. So I just threw it right in the tank. It will sink eventually. It might grow some fungus or some mold or something, but I'm not too worried about it. And here we are on day 11, you guys, and the snail reactor is looking great. The plants are alive, and they're looking better. Our alligator weed even has some new growth on top. Yeah, that's beautiful. That's exactly what we want to see, that little red stem. So this plant will shoot up about 2.5 feet, 3 feet tall, and then I'll have to trim it and figure out what I'm going to do with it. The pothos looks okay too. It's going to grow a bit slower, and I hope I didn't beat it up too much when I put it in here, but it looks okay. Yeah, I'm still learning about pothos. You'll have to forgive me. But the reactor looks functional, and we are hatching snail eggs in here. We have more snail eggs developing. We see some hungry hatchlings just eating everything they can find. And the material, the tank itself, is consuming organics. It's consuming this material. It's eating cucumbers, and it's even eating that coconut. Now, I should mention, you guys, do not feed your jar aquariums with coconuts. Bad idea. I want to take 1 second to appreciate the root cutting that we took of the alligator weed earlier in the video. It's growing really nicely here. Just move this little pothos out the way. There we go. So yeah, it's got two nice stems on it, and yeah, it's going to grow too. So we've doubled our alligator weed very easily. Also, the pothos is pretty and fun. I love it. I've probably said that word so many times in this video. Forgive me if I mumble a little bit, a little bit, you guys. I do have traces of a speech impediment, and I did actually damage my tongue and areas of my mouth. It's a long story, a long time ago. So this is the best version of human speech I can accomplish. I hope that you guys can bear with me. But yeah, so here's the seed pod. It looks okay. I don't think it's really growing any of that stuff. I think that's just kind of drifting around in the jar. You will still see some particles from the coconut, but you'll also see a ton of my worms, yes. And looking at the roots of that alligator weed, first of all, those roots have grown quite a bit in the last few days. But also look at how much of that mulm has been removed, you guys. It's been demolished. A significant portion of that mulm is gone thanks to our darrow worms. Yes, I believe these are darrow worms or closely related species. These guys are great, and they are eating mulm. They are harmless. They are not parasites. They are so beneficial. And I really have to mention that I got these from a friend, another YouTuber called Psycho Plant Lady. Thank you so much, Dina. That's awesome. You know, I don't know if you meant to send me these worms. She sent me some stuff from one of her pool ponds, and I was so happy, you know, to get that stuff and play with it. But yeah, in those samples, we had some of these worms, and these guys are amazing detritivores. They are top notch. Many people would see these, you know, you'd post on like an aquarium forum, like, oh, dude, there's worms in the tank. I'm gonna have to break the tank down and clean it out. And, you know, I might have to spend $300 and buy a whole new tank. These are the things I see people talking about, but look at how beneficial these worms are. They are eating the mulm right off of the roots of the plant. It's almost like the alligator weed has evolved in a way to trap mulm and dirt and stuff so that worms will come and feed on it and deposit fertilizer. Does that make sense? I think it's like a codependent relationship or something. But even the bottom layers here, which did start to develop a layer of mulm, it's all just worms now. There is some material down here, but it is mostly made of worm bodies, and I think that's freaking awesome. That makes me very happy. We can convert waste and dirt and unwanted stuff into useful biomachines, worms, who will then eat stuff and make more worms. And their droppings or castings or whatever you want to say, the fertilizer they leave behind, the nutrients they get from this material, they help to break down and make that stuff available for our bacteria and our plants. And yes, they do feed the bacteria. That's part of the process. And in return, the bladder snails feed on that bacteria. So what we're really doing here is we are running a farm meant to grow bacteria for bladder snails to eat, biofilm, and also allowing, you know, worms and things to assist us in this process to make it easier. We have quite a few new egg sacs that have appeared in here, and hope you guys don't mind that little bit of glare. But yes, these are recently laid eggs. They are very new. And I just can't wait to see what happens in this tank, you guys. Do you think we'll have two different like lines of bladder snails in here? There's a chance those wild snails might be different species. You do see my darrow worms here from Psycho Plant Lady, and you can also see my little white worms. They are different species coexisting. Up here at the cucumber, still floating around, we have a hatchling feeding frenzy going on here, you guys. So that snail on the left, I'm pretty sure he came from the mutagen pond population. You can see he's got a midnight color. He's black. And our other snails here are kind of beige or gray or whatever, but these guys are hatchlings from the wild population. And there's a chance that maybe they are separate species. If so, then these snails will generally choose not to breed with each other, and they'll kind of separate. I know that sounds weird, but they can tell. And if that does happen, then we'll just have two different families of bladder snails living together in here. And if not, if I'm right and they are the same species, then these guys will just mix and we might see some interesting traits from them in the future. Who knows? Guys, I've done a lot of stuff with the mutant snails this year. Yes, mutating snails. Not intentionally, but definitely intentionally catching them and enjoying them and checking them out. But don't do that stuff at home. Do not expose your snails to radiation or anything like that, please. Up here above the cucumber, we do have one of our other worm species here. These are my tubifex worms. They kind of like hang out over the water and dip their faces down into it to find food. But again, these guys also help to break down material and prevent rot in the aquarium. They're also eating cucumber slices. Everybody eats cucumbers, you guys, at least in my builds. We're all vegetarians here, at least on this level. If we upscale this ecosystem to make a larger, quote unquote, clean ecosystem, I would need something to eat the worms and stuff. I would need a predator, a carnivore. But at this point, in a jar of this size, we do not need any carnivores, no predators, as I am the predator. When I come in here with my pipette and suck out a bunch of worms and stuff, um, yeah, that's them being removed from the tank. So it kind of acts like a predator. I'm just using them to start other projects. But I hope that you guys enjoyed the video. I know it's a bit unconventional. We built a snail reactor designed to consume organic materials like produce, vegetables, things like that, and turn that into snails for us to use in our aquariums and experiments. As a side effect of that, we also tried to build a clean aquarium, a clean snail reactor, and I think we did pretty good. If nothing else, I proved the concept is possible. You can use worms and stuff to clean your tank. You can keep that mold controlled, keep it neat and tidy in there, and you can even use your plants as a filter. I mean, it works out so well. If I can find some little pea clams or something that would help to clear the water, we'd really be in business. So thanks for watching, guys. This is Bucket Ponds. The new series is called Eco Sundays. This is episode 4. I'll include a link to the playlist in the channel in the description below. Thank you for watching. Big thank you to our YouTube members and Patreon supporters. Your belief in the channel inspires me every day. Thank you so much. My name is Bucket Ponds. This is my new series, Eco Sundays, episode 4. In episode 5, we will likely go investigate a wild ecosystem and have some fun. Thank you.